you all for joining. I am David Karlbach, also with the World Trade Center, Utah. I'm in my day job responsible for bringing more investors to the state of Utah from abroad. And the organization overall, and I in particular, have partnered with the state of Utah to help with the Governor's Economic Recovery Task Force. This is an organization that was created specifically to help during this time of the COVID pandemic. And our role was to help make sure that the state of Utah takes full advantage of the federal programs that were offered earlier last year, and thankfully are now offered now with the new Economic Aid Act, which was passed on December 27th. To help the state take full advantage of these programs, we're doing multiple activities, one of which includes using our platform to connect to businesses around the state, especially hard impacted industries such as yours. And we're very, very happy to partner with the SBA Utah. They are a great partner in general, but in particular play a critical role with the Economic Aid Act. They're playing a key role in the management of multiple programs within the Act that were funded and are really there to help small businesses across the state. So we're very lucky to have them as a partner, and lucky today to have Marla Trolla, who is the district director, and John Gygi, who is the district counsel lawyer, here to explain the program and answer your questions. So with that, I'll turn it over to Marla and John.
All right. Thank you, David and Hannah, for hosting us today. We really do appreciate it. And we appreciate everyone joining us this afternoon as well. We'll try to be brief with this. There's a lot of information that we're going to share with you, but Hannah's going to send out a more detailed presentation afterward for any of those who may be interested. Okay. So the SBA has various programs that they're offering for COVID relief. As you all know, the Paycheck Protection Program, we're doing another round of that. It's going to include first draw and second draw PPP loans. Of course, we still have our economic injury disaster loans, which we refer to as EIDL. And under that is the EIDL grants or EIDL advance. We are also starting a new program called the Shuttered Venue Operator Grants, and I'll get into that in just a minute. We are extending subsidy payments for existing SBA loans. We are enhancing our regular loan programs, our 7A and our 504 loans. And of course, we are working hand in hand with our resource partners funded by SBA, which includes the Small Business Development Center network throughout the state. There are 15 centers, as well as the 2 women's business centers, one here in Salt Lake and one down in Cedar City. Okay, under the Economic Aid Act that just rolled out, there are modifications to the PPP program. It establishes a second-time PPP loan, or what I will call or refer to as a second draw loan. So that allows small businesses to apply for a second PPP loan. And we heard from just about all of our small businesses out there that they absolutely would apply for a second PPP loan if it were offered. So very pleased to see that included in the legislation. We're providing specific access for minority, underserved, veteran, and women-owned businesses. We just rolled this out to community financial institutions starting on Monday with a first draw loan and second draw loans starting on Wednesday. We only really have one here in Utah, well, maybe a couple, but for sure one, Golden West Credit Union, that has been starting to take applications this week. On Friday, we're going to open it up to lenders with $1 billion or less in assets. And then next Tuesday, we open it up to all of our SBA lenders across the state. And we currently have 435 lenders that are offering PPP loans. So next slide. Okay, so this is the increased appropriations legislation that just passed. As you all know, there's about $284 billion for the PPP loan program. The $25 million for minority business development centers is under the Department of Commerce. We have one center here that we're aware of, the Suazo Center, who is planning to apply to become one of those centers. We don't know how long that's going to take, but I'm pretty sure they're going to submit their application. We have $15 billion set aside for the grants, the shuttered venue grants that I mentioned earlier. $20 billion for the EIDL advance. Those funds were extinguished the first go around, so we're glad to see that they're allocating additional funds for that. And then our debt relief program as well as lending enhancements. Okay, so as I mentioned, we rolled out the PPP program this week to the CFIs. Those are well underway. And then, as I also mentioned, lenders with $1 billion or less in assets will be taking applications on Friday, tomorrow, and then next Tuesday is when it opens up to everyone else, all those other lenders. The pretty much the overarching points of the PPP program this time is similar to last go around. It's 100% guaranteed by SBA. The deadline for funding is March 31st, 2021. So, you know, this is a sort of a short-term program, and it is first come, first serve. So we want to make sure those small businesses in Utah are tapping into this funding that's available. We don't know how long the funding is going to last. It's possible it may extend out to the end of March, but it may not. So get your applications in as soon as possible. We have made a modification too on the covered period, providing more flexibility to the borrower. They may select from 8 to 24 weeks now. So that's different than the last round of PPP funding. And again, provides more flexibility to the borrower. As mentioned, it does allow for a second PPP loan. It is also increasing the amount of the first draw PPP loans, and I'll get to that in just a minute. We're in the process of setting up a simplified or a streamlined application process for loans under $150,000, just to make it easier for businesses. And then of course, the forgiveness benefits do apply, and we're working on a streamlined application for that as well. Okay, so the restrictions that you all will want to be aware of, the information that I have there in blue is new information under this legislation. So you all cannot apply for an EIDL loan and a PPP loan and use it for the same purpose. Okay, so that is consistent with the last round of PPP funding. You can't get more than one second draw PPP loan per business or entity. And this is also important to keep in mind. You can't get a shuttered venue grant and a PPP loan unless the first PPP loan for the first draw is made before December 27th, 2020. Okay. Let's see. Go ahead. Can we get to I need to click the slide down. Okay. Whoops. Sorry about that. Eligible entities. So first and second draw loans. For the first draw loan, it applies for 500 employees or fewer. And if you're getting a second draw PPP, it's 300 employees or fewer. And then all the other information captured here is consistent with the last round of PPP funding. We went through 23 interim final rules last time, and we included various businesses through these interim final rules. So now it includes tribal businesses, agricultural businesses, nonprofits, sole proprietors, independent contractors, etc. The applicant must be in operation on or before February 15th, 2020. Okay. These are the new eligible entities under the new PPP program. So housing cooperatives are now eligible, chamber 501c6s, local newspaper, television, and radio stations, and destination marketing organizations. That includes the 501c organizations and state or political subdivision of a state. So for example, if the Department of Tourism wanted to apply for the PPP, they would likely be eligible if they meet the following criteria there, okay? First and second draw loans, the ineligible entities, everything there in black is consistent with the last round. So we added some new enhancements here. So entities who received, of course, the shuttered venue grant, if applying for a loan after December 27th, 2020 are not eligible, as I mentioned earlier. Entities engaged in political activities and or lobbying, entities created under the laws of China, publicly traded entities, or entities that have been permanently closed. So if your small business was closed 6 months ago permanently, you would not qualify, okay? Or any of those small businesses that are in bankruptcy. The loan proceeds can be used for the following, but keep in mind this is, we're continuing with that 60-40 split, okay? So 60% of the loan proceeds should be used for payroll costs, and then the 40% can be used for the other information I captured there. So payroll costs, that includes, of course, salaries, wages. We're also including vacation, sick leave, healthcare benefits, retirement benefits, etc. We added in group insurance payments. So that's something new that folks can consider as part of their payroll costs. So then 40% of the loan could be used for mortgage interest payments, rent, utilities, pre-existing debt, to refinance an idle loan. And then we've added in operations expenditures, property damage costs, supplier costs, and worker protection expenditures and adaptive measures. And those adaptive measures would be, say, you put in plexiglass, or you've got signage for COVID, or you create a drive-through for a restaurant, that type of thing. So you can use the proceeds for, if you want to use it, say, for payroll costs up to 80%, that's just fine. But again, for the forgiveness benefits, you want to use at least 60% for payroll. Okay, first draw loan terms. This goes up to $10 million, so pretty significant, and it's based on a formula. It's 2.5 times the applicant's average monthly payroll costs over the last 12 months. This is consistent with the last round of PPP funding. The maturity rate of 5 years is consistent, as well as a 1% interest rate and a complete payment deferment. Okay. Second draw loans. So these only go up to $2 million. It's also based on a formula, and you can see that under the first bullet there, it's still 2.5 times the applicant's average monthly payroll costs over 12 months. However, we've added in these additional components. So for you all, under NAICS Code 72, accommodations and food services, you all are going to be able to look at 3.5 times the applicant's average monthly payroll costs over the 12 months. Okay, so that's important for you all to keep in mind. The relevant 12-month period is calendar year 2019, calendar year 2020, or the 12-month period from when the loan was made. And then we have some specific there's for farmers and ranchers, the self-employed, and partnerships. Okay, the maturity rate is 5 years, 1% interest rate. And then this is new. Seasonal employers may use any 12-week period from February 15th, 2019 to February 15th, 2020. Okay, single corporate groups may not get more than 4 million in total. Okay, second draw loan terms. And again, this is just additional requirements under the new program. Was eligible for or previously received a PPP loan. You have or will use the full loan amount for eligible expenses for the PPP second draw. You have no more than 300 employees, and you can demonstrate at least a 25% reduction in gross receipts between comparable quarters in 2019 and 2020. And we provided some specifics there. I won't get into it, but basically what you would be looking at is hypothetically, if you wanted to look at Q2 in 2019, you would need to compare it to Q2 in 2020. You can't take Q2 in 2019 and compare it to Q4 in 2020, for example, okay? And we'll help answer any questions that you may have on that. The loan increase requests for the first draw loans, this is also new. So a borrower may request an increase even if the loan is fully dispersed and under the form 1502. Okay, so increases can be made only by the lender of record. So those lenders that have that current loan are the ones that can increase the amount. Okay. The increase request must be submitted electronically by the end of the PPP loan program, which is March 31st, 2021. And then this is just the SBA paying back the lenders and such. Okay, loan increase requests. It applies again then to the specific borrower types, and you can see there under partnerships, seasonal employers, and farmers and ranchers the specifics. You can also see the specific under the fully repaid loans as well as the partially repaid loans. And then borrowers that did not accept a full amount loan, there's some specifics. John, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so basically, if you got a PPP loan during the first round, you can ask for an increase to that loan, but only under these circumstances if you gave the money back or if you didn't get all the money from the lender, right, accepted all of it. Or if you're one of these special types where the calculation has now changed because of the new legislation and would have given you more money if it had been in effect when you did it the first time. So these are kind of limited circumstances as to where you can go back and try to get more on your first PPP loan.
Okay, the SBA waivers, again, we're waiving a lot of requirements that we have in other programs. So you can see there, we're waiving the borrower guarantee fee and the annual lender fee. We're waiving the credit elsewhere requirement. So this allows for borrowers more flexibility to be able to qualify. We're waiving the collateral and personal guarantee requirements as well as the prepayment penalties. And this is consistent with the last round of PPP funding. Okay, the application process. So what you're going to want to do is submit through your lender the form 2483 for a first draw loan. So if you're applying for a PPP for the first time, that's the form you're going to want to use. If you're applying for a PPP for the second time, then just make sure you use the -SD form because and your lender's going to make sure of this anyway, but we want folks to be able to do it right the first time so that it doesn't waste any additional time on your end. You're going to want to gather and submit your payroll documentation to your lender. And again, there's some specifics under that. And as well as make your required certifications. And it lists out those specifics there as well. Your lender will be fully aware of this. In fact, we trained up the lenders on Wednesday with the same information. We are creating a streamlined application for loans 150,000 or less. And then you have to gather your revenue loss documentation if you're applying for a second PPP loan.
So this is where you'll want to go, either to your lender or your small business development centers or your women's business centers. They can really help you figure out what payroll documentation you need or what revenue loss documentation you need, and also help you walk through the application documentation.
Yeah, and just so you know, as I mentioned earlier, our resource partners, the Small Business Development Center Network, the Women's Business Centers, are pretty much just waiting for, the flood of requests from small business owners to help them with their applications and the documentation required. They are there to help small businesses right now through this process. Okay, PPP forgiveness. We've got a whole slide deck just on this, and I know Hannah's going to send out a more comprehensive PowerPoint presentation. You can go through that in your leisure, because there's some more specifics in there about forgiveness. But I did want to highlight just primarily the items there in blue, because this is all new. So again, I mentioned this earlier, the covered period is from 8 weeks to 24 weeks at the borrower's choosing. Idle advances will not be deducted from forgiveness. This is something new. So during the last round of PPP funding, the idle advances were subtracted from the forgiveness, and so, or deducted. And so now, what we're doing is, if that were the case, then the SBA is going to do a reconciliation payment to the lender for the outstanding PPP loan balance, okay, for that idle advance that may have been deducted. Still under development, as I mentioned, is this streamlined forgiveness application for loans under 150. Small business expenses paid with forgivable PPP loans are now tax deductible. That is also a new component that we've added, and I think that's it. Okay, so forms and guidance. So just wanted to have one slide, just a quick reference for you all to be able to use. This is all the various forms that you're going to need for when you apply for the PPP.
You'll be using either the Form 2483 for a first trial or Form 2483 SD for a second trial. Those are the two forms you guys need to be aware of.
Yeah, and I mentioned that earlier. Okay, Shuttered Venue Grant Program. Not sure how many this applies to those on this webinar, but this is going to be a big program for us. We don't have all the specifics on this yet. It's going to be rolling out here in the coming weeks. It's being administered by our Office of Disaster Assistance, who also administered the idle loans as well as the idle advances. And so they're pretty darn busy, but again, we anticipate this is going to roll out relatively soon. We're also calling it Save Our Stages. So if you hear it referred to that, it's the same program. Eligible entities under this program will include live venue operators and promoters, theaters, live performing arts organizations, museums, zoos, motion picture theaters, talent representatives, etc. They must have been fully operational on February 29th, 2020. The gross earned revenue loss of at least 25% from one quarter in 2020 as compared to 2019 is a requirement. And that you intend to resume your operations, okay? You can't be owned or controlled by National Securities Exchange or receiving federal funding through that. As I mentioned earlier, that you haven't received a PPP loan. So as long as it's after December 27th, I believe it is. And then employees' hours here are the categories for what's considered full-time versus part-time. So 30+ hours is considered a full-time employee, and then 10 to 30 hours would be a half-time. Okay. So the amount goes up to 10 million. So it's pretty significant there. And you can get a second grant up to 50% of the amount of the first grant. We're going to roll this out in phases. So during the first 2 weeks, the grants will only be given to eligible entities that have a 90% or greater revenue loss. And then the next 2 weeks, it'll be for those with 70% or greater loss. If you were in operation on January 1st, 2019, the grant amount is 45% of the gross earned revenue during 2019. And if you're in operation after January 1st, 2019, the grant amount is the average monthly gross earned revenue for each month of operation in 2019, and then you multiply that by 6, okay? The revenue based on the period from April 1st through December 31st, 2019 and 2020 is what we're going to be looking at. The grant proceeds can be used for a variety of different purposes. It's also for payroll costs, rent, mortgage, utilities, PPE, and just other ordinary business expenses that you may have. So it's pretty broad in scope. Of course, the prohibited expenses includes if you want to expand and you're looking at buying real estate, that won't qualify, or payments on loans originated after February 15th, 2020, and that type of thing. You must return any amount that you haven't used in the first year of the grant disbursement. So just keep that in mind, or 18 months after the second grant. And the second grant can be used for expenses through June 20th, 2022. Okay.
We know that most of you are probably restaurants. I don't know if you've got any performing stage and operations in conjunction with that, or maybe you're like Broovies where you have a motion picture theater in the back. This is something you can consider if you have some kind of side operations like that.
Okay, this is just a slide on our resource partners and bilingual as well. So anyone that service, we can make sure you're hooked with the appropriate folks. And then we wanted to just provide our contact information here. So the main phone number for the Utah District Office is there, as well as our main general email box. We wanted to provide the number for the Office of Disaster Assistance and their email too, just because, again, they're going to be rolling out this new shuttered venue program, as well as the EIDL and the advance that we mentioned. As David had said, we have set up our rapid response team, and thank you and a huge kudos to you guys at the World Trade Center for helping spearhead this effort. You know, we got everybody trained up, and we're feeding them information to feed all our small businesses across the state. So we are very, very grateful for that. The World Trade Center is a fabulous partner. And then we just include a couple of websites where you can go and get more information at SBA. Okay, and with that, we can open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Marla and John. This information has been so helpful to everyone. We only have one question in the chat so far, so I encourage anyone else who has questions to either raise their hand or put it in the chat at this time. But our first question is, where can women-owned businesses apply for a loan in advance of the public, like you mentioned?
Yeah, well, there's no special priority for a woman-owned business to apply. There's just special priority for community financial institutions.
Okay.
So if you go to a community financial institution, they get to put the loan applications into SBA right now. And as Marla mentioned, that's Golden West Federal Credit Union and JACL, the Japanese credit union. Those are the only two that we're aware of. So they're actually submitting applications to SBA right now. So anybody who wants to get in early can go there.
Perfect. And you had
Yeah,
mentioned
but-
kind of the concentration on women-owned and other owned businesses. Sorry, continue, John.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, the application portal is going to be open to every bank or credit union by Tuesday. So. But, you know, be getting to your lenders right now with your applications and your documentation so that they have it ready to upload when it's ready to go.
And, you know, the other point I want to make too is that because we went through so many interim final rules the last go around, I really encourage businesses to apply.
Hey, Marla, and John too a little bit, but Marla especially, you're not very easy to
Can-
hear.
Can you hear me now?
Still a little muddled.
Hold on one second. Can we turn it up? Okay,
Just while
sorry.
you're connecting, I just wanted to repeat the name of the bank because I see a question or two about that. It was Golden West, like the color gold, Golden West Credit Union in Ogden was the CFI, as well as the National JACL Credit Union in Salt Lake City.
Yep. So, hey, David, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I just really want to emphasize to small business owners, get your applications in as soon as you can, because we went through so many interim final rules the last go around, and we made changes that where not all small businesses were qualifying, or we were changing the amounts and things like that. So get your applications in as soon as possible. And again, the funding is first come, first served.
Great. I'll just wait for about 15 more seconds to see if any more questions come in.
I see 7 chat, or are those just not questions? Those are comments maybe. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, a lot of these are just comments
My bad.
and kind of answering some of those questions as well. But we want to thank you, John and Marla, so much. And we especially want to thank the Salt Lake Area Restaurant Association and the Utah Restaurant Association for partnering with us to spread the word, because we know that restaurants have been hit pretty hard with this. Kelly Lake, to answer your question, yes, the slide deck will be available. I'll be sending that out later on this evening once the recording finishes processing. And if there are no more questions at this time, and if you think of questions later on, please feel free to reach out to me or to David or to the rapid response team, and I'll send you the links to all of those so that you have that contact information. But we wish you guys the best of luck. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you have a great rest of your evening.